Welcome to hour number 2 of the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. A lot of people in their conversations today at the water cooler, at the store, at the church, wherever you might be, at the picnic, the family reunion, are talking about, and you hear it in different forms, that our country's going to hell in a handbasket, okay? The idea that somehow we are disintegrating in terms of our values, we're disintegrating in terms of our family unit, we're disintegrating in terms of what we believe in, that we thought once made America, yes, an exceptional country, made us great. That we no longer ask people to assimilate to come into our culture. We no longer ask people to come to a higher standard. We no longer preach to people the idea of independence. All of those things have, I think, kind of figured into that conversation that people are having around the country today. And you can hear that conversation just about anywhere you go. Which brings me to this article that was sent to me yesterday. It was a great article. And I'm not going to put a judgment on it. What I am going to do is I'm going to share the article with you. I'm going to allow you... I'm not going to allow you. That sounds so pompous. I'd like you to call in and give your thoughts on this. Because once you hear it, and if any of you have ever gone through this, I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say. It has to do with families, okay? And the title of the article will give you a little insight. Quote, unquote, it's a break from the kids. Why parents cheat more than childless couples. Now, I don't know if this is happening in your community. I don't know if you know anybody that's done this, but this is a very interesting story. May I share it with you? It's not that long. And then the phone lines are open. 1-800-357-0910. I'll take the whole hour with it if you'd like. But I've got some other things on the table, too, that we can talk about. We were going to have Congressman John Fleming in this hour, but he was called into a hearing. So he is in a hearing right now and is not able to be with us today. So I apologize for that. I booked him last week to kind of get out ahead, and those things happen sometimes. So we will get him at another time. But here's the article. I think it's an intriguing one. I'd love to have you give me your thoughts on it at 1-800-357-0910. You can also email me your thoughts at gary.sutton@cumulus.com. You can even put them up on Twitter at Gary G. Sutton. Here's the article. It's a break from the kids, why parents cheat more than childless couples. Turns out it's not the 7-year itch couple should fear. It's the 9-month one. Parents, a new survey reports, are nearly twice as likely to cheat as married people without children. In the online study of 1,000 18 to 49-year-olds followed up with focus groups around the country, 18% of parents said they've strayed, compared to only 11% of childless married people. When you have children, you get lost in who you are as a woman. A 40-year-old Florida woman who's a mom of 6 told the New York Post. She said she began cheating after learning her husband had strayed. Her 2 children at the time were ages 2 and 5. Though she had initially wanted to get even, she found the confidence boost exhilarating. Quote, unquote, it's a break from the kids, says the woman, who owns a children's clothing boutique and asked to remain anonymous. She says her affair encouraged her to lose her post-pregnancy weight and, quote, unquote, start wearing extensions again. When you're a mom, you literally wake up and you go to sleep, wiping butts, wiping noses, and if you get out of yoga pants, it's a good day. Her first marriage lasted 13 years. She married again 6 years ago and had 4 more children. She says she thought she'd stay true to hubby number 2 until their sex life dried up. They were having sex just once every 6 weeks, and their conversations revolved around soccer practice and carpools. So she signed up for AshleyMadison.com, a website that caters to those looking to have affairs. AshleyMadison.com. I think we talked about them last year at some point in time. She says the attention makes her feel sexy and alive again, quote unquote. It's like having 2 lives. I'm a mom and a wife, and then I'm living this romance novel life on the side, unquote. And then she said this, I'd say cheating even makes me a better parent because it makes me a happier person. Again, quote unquote. I'd say cheating even makes me a better parent because it makes me a happier person. Melissa Levin DeVal, the San Francisco-based culture and trend expert who conducted the study, says many parents are logging onto social networks like Facebook and Instagram for emotional fulfillment. She said this, quote, from her study, what's clear from our study is the likelihood of committing infidelity is far greater once the pressures and reality of parenthood enter the equation, unquote. And digital only makes it that much easier and blurs the line of what is actually cheating. Levin Delville, conducted the study in conjunction with USA Network, which is airing the new scripted series Satisfaction, premiering tonight, by the way, at 10 p.m., about married parents dealing with infidelity. That's on USA Network tonight. Satisfaction, parents dealing with infidelity. Your thoughts. 1-800-357-0910. This lady said it makes her feel better. She's happier. She's a better mom. She's a better wife because she's cheating on her husband. And I guess, again, I'm not going to add any value to this. I really want to hear what you think. So hit the lines right now. Men and women, I want to hear from both sides. Has this ever happened to you? Or do you know someone it's happened to? Or how do you see this? She said, I'd say cheating even makes me a better parent because it makes me a happier person. So you have the kids. This lady had a 2 and a 5-year-old, and she and the guy had both cheated in this particular case. And they go out there and say, but we need to be happier, and this is the way that we're going to be happier. What's your thoughts on this? Don't sit back. Dial it up right now. 1-800-357-0910. What's it say about our culture today? What's it say about our families today? Is this the new? Are we moving into kind of a new normal? All right? And don't sit back on this. Okay, this is one that I really like your opinion on a lot. All right? Is marriage still worth it? I guess that's one of the things I'd say. Is marriage still worth it? You know, we talk about marriage all the time. We've had some Supreme Court rulings about marriage. Does it still mean the same thing that it did before? How do you view marriage now? Is it something where, in the present day, you should maybe be able to take a break from? That's kind of what they're suggesting in this. The lady says it's a break from the kids. Go off there and cheat a little bit more, right? Both parents did it in this particular instance. And they come back, she says, happier, rejuvenated. Can you see it, any logic there at all? How do you view it? I know some of you are sitting there steaming right now as you're listening to this. So give us a call, 1-800-357-0910. I'm particularly interested from the women's standpoint, guys too, but women, I'd like to hear what you have to say about this morning, because I think it's a really telltale kind of story on where we are in a society right now. And it's not necessarily negative, positive, or anything like that, but do the marriage vows mean anything anymore? Should marriage maybe be eliminated and we just kind of get together? Yeah, and then when you're tired of each other, you just kind of go to someone else, and that'll help society to work fine. We'll work something out with the kids and, take care of them, make sure they grow up, we'll be around for them, it'll be a little different. Is that where we want to be right now? As a society, it seems that we trend in that direction. But I'd like to get your thoughts on that this morning. 1-800-357-0910. I was reading some of the responses that some of the people had here on emails that they wrote in about this article. And one of them said, kids are for working on the farm or to make extra money in the factory. There's no reason to have them anymore. That's one person wrote in. And another guy wrote, and these were guys writing them, by the way. Another guy wrote in, another good reason not to have children. Another guy said, this is because they are uncivilized beasts that cannot maintain a solemn commitment. Talking about the situation, this is what he said. A guy named Anthony Sewell. He said that the man and the woman are uncivilized beasts that cannot maintain a solemn commitment. And that's maybe part of this whole question I'm making it out to you right now, too. Can we still maintain a solemn commitment? Or are we in a day and age where everything's disposable? We used to have a thing, it was a long period of time. I read somewhere a few years ago that 50-year anniversary cards are pretty much not being made anymore. There's a surplus of them because most people don't make it to 50 years. So get in with me on this one. I'd very much like to know how you think about this. 1-800-357-0910. Let's start it out with Sharon this morning. Sharon, you're on the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. Good morning to you. What's your reaction to this article?
Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Sharon.
It's kind of interesting. I want to just throw a different twist on this.
Go ahead.
I was just dating a guy that broke up with me, and we were both single, and he said that he feels that he can give a married woman more fulfillment and joy than her husband when she's depressed and sad. So he believes, I guess his goal in life is to help this woman be happy. And I said to him, won't this encourage a woman to cheat?
Right.
I'll make her happy. So this is the mentality of a lot of, I'm saying, middle-aged men. Instead of making a commitment, they'd rather make a married woman happy.
Wow. Is that is that kind of a newfound thing? I mean, you're out in the dating world right now. Is that kind of something brand new, or has that been around for a while? I mean, where do we see this in the midst of our living today?
Well, I think that middle-aged men don't want to make a commitment to a single person.
Okay.
To carry on. Like, I'm seeing over 50. Because they're thinking retirement, money, and if I get involved with a woman, I'm going to lose my money because I've probably been already screwed by a divorce. So these guys now are, instead of thinking commitment, it's all about me. I'm going to make myself feel good, but in return, I'll make this woman feel good. And if she has an affair, then it's not, I didn't cause it. I just made her feel good.
You were just kind of helping out in the short term. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sick.
Interesting take on it, Sharon. So now, are you dating again?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, it's kind of turned me off on a lot of
you kind of
outlook.
Are you reassessing right now?
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds like kind of where you're at. But, hey, I really appreciate the openness and honesty of that. Thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Have a great day. Let's go to Mike in York very quickly, get the man's point of view on this whole thing. And I welcome you to call in. We're going to stay with us even after the break. 1-800-357-0910. Mike, you're on the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. What's your reaction to this article?
Well, you know what? Because she's wherever she is in time of her life, what happens if it goes wrong? Is she then going to get married again? What's going to happen to her kids? And, it's the long-term thing. I mean, everything's going right now. She found out something that's working for her, but there's always things that are going to happen in the future that might not be too good. And also, there's no guarantee in life that we're going to be rich, we're going to be happy, and we're going to be healthy. So, but hey, this is America.
So the question I guess I want to ask you on that is, do we still think long-term for the new generations that are coming in, the millennials, the Y generation, all that kind of stuff? Do we still think long-term, or is that fading fast? Is that an old-fashioned thought anymore?
Well, I'm old school, so I was born in 42, and I'm into my second marriage, and I'm very happy. And it's really hard to say because the thinking is going so fast that we're splintered. There's no more old school people. We're dying, and these younger people are maybe watching too much reality television.
Great point, Mike. Hey, thanks so much for calling. Appreciate it. 1-800-357-0910. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get more of your calls on this. We've broken the ice now. And I was surprised by the fact that people with kids that young are the ones that are cheating. I would have thought the childless couples might have been the higher number, but 18% of 18 to 49-year-olds who are parents said they've strayed, compared to only 11% of childless married people. It's a break for the kids, the parents say. Is that a good thing? Tell me. 1-800-357-0910. We've heard from one man and one woman so far this morning. We want to hear from you. Give us a call. 1-800-357-0910 on the Gary Sutton Show on News Radio 910 WSBA. If you're just joining us, we're talking about an article this morning that I saw in the New York Post, an article that someone sent to me, and it's a break from the kids. Why parents cheat more than childless couples. And it was done as part of a study. And they found that 18% of parents say they've strayed, compared to only 11% of childless married people. And there's a whole lot of sub-stories in this whole thing. But when this one woman was talking about it to the New York Post, she said, when you have children, you get lost in who you are as a woman. She said she began cheating after learning her husband had strayed. Her two children at the time were 2 and 5. Though she had initially wanted to get even, she found the confidence boost exhilarating. in the cheating. She said it's a break for the kids, says this woman who remained anonymous, who owns a children's clothing boutique and asked to remain anonymous. She says her affair encouraged her to lose her post-pregnancy weight and start wearing extensions again. I guess that's the hair thing, right? When you're a mom, you literally wake up and you go to sleep wiping butts, wiping noses, and if you get out of yoga pants, it's a good day. Her first marriage lasted 13 years. She married again 6 years ago and had 4 more children. She says she thought she'd stay true to hubby number 2 until their sex life dried up, and then she said they were only having sex one time every 6 weeks, and their conversations revolved around soccer practice and carpool, so she signed up for AshleyMadison.com, which is a website, by the way, talks a little bit about our nation today, that caters to those looking to have affairs. She says the attention makes her feel sexy and alive again. It's like having 2 lives. I'm a mom and a wife, and then I'm living this romance novel life on the side. Is that also like saying I'm living one life that's honest and the other life that's kind of off in the shadows? One life that's not? She said, I'd say cheating even makes me a better parent because it makes me a happier person. I want you to take a look at that and give me your thoughts on it. 1-800-357-0910. The lines are open right now. Men and women, I'm encouraging both of you to get in on this one. She said, I'd say cheating even makes me a better parent because it makes me a happier person. So then the question you asked, does marriage mean anything there? 1-800-357-0910. 3 lines open for you. Let's go to Kathy in Stewartstown. Kathy, you're next up on the Gary Sutton Show. Your turn to make the call. What do you make out of this article and out of that particular line?
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I think it may make her happier for a while, but you know that saying, oh, what an entangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive?
Yeah, I've heard it, yes.
I think it's Shakespeare, but I'm not sure. But at any rate, she could be ruining 2 families.
Yeah.
I also have realized in life there's a commandment that says, thou shalt not commit adultery.
Right.
I think that when you follow the commandments, you end up really with true happiness, not partial happiness.
Much like the Constitution to some in this country, have the commandments become old-fashioned? Have they become a suggestion box? You pick some you like and you leave the ones out you don't? Is that do you see a trend in that direction or not?
I see a trend, but it's not going to really be that way. It can't be that way.
Interesting stuff. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate your call this morning. I guess one other thing I want to ask you before you leave, though. We live in such a visual world today, and we are bombarded with information all the time from TVs, from movies, from videos that we walk around looking at a moment's notice on our cell phones, on our iPads, whatever it might be. And it seems to me that we almost get taken into a surrealistic kind of existence that we seem to want to, or some people seem to want to grab onto. And that almost seems to be apparent here to me in this article. That's one of the things I took out of it, that people, dream about all the stuff they see on TV. I mean, there's shows on now like Naked Dating. There's shows on like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, all those different kind of things. And we see that stuff all the time out there. We're bombarded with it. Are people kind of wandering away from the reality of what they deal with in life that they kind of sign up for to the surreality of, geez, that's what I'd like it to be over there?
I do think this all this stuff that you see on television now is kind of ruining our society. I really do. And
I don't think it's just on television. And thank you for your call, Kathy. I really do appreciate it this morning. I say that a lot because I do appreciate your calls here on the Gary Sutton Show. 1-800-357-0910. To kind of wrap this up, I'll take some more calls on the other side of the bottom of the hour because I'm really intrigued by this whole thing. But I wrote a couple things down as I was talking to you about this morning. What about the idea that's in most vows that people take when they marry through good and bad times? Now, times can get so bad that, maybe there's a point in time where the two of you say, well, we're not doing well by each other. Maybe that happens. But what about sacrifice? There is sacrifice. Now, listen, there ought to be a partnership here, not just the man saying, well, you're doing all that and, be at home, take care of the kids and all that stuff, and there's nothing else. I mean, I would see where women could feel trapped that way. But by the same token, did you sign a promise? And again, that talks a lot about what promises and contracts are about today. Do we really abide by them anymore? Do you still love the person when they change in their looks? Or is the love simply superficial, narcissistic? And have we gotten to be an all-about-me society? They're all questions that I'm just raising on this. I'll take more of your calls at the other side of the half hour, and I also want to spend a little time with a related subject where we talk about it with our politicians. But what about authenticity? If authenticity is not the most important characteristic that we have as people, and yes, later on as politicians who represent us as people, then what is it? I'm Gary Sutton. We'll be right back here on the Gary Sutton Show on News Radio 910 WSBA. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show here on WSBA. It's 33 minutes past the hour of 10. And we're talking about this article that I read to you about. It's a break from the kids, why parents cheat more than childless couples. And a bit interesting what you've had to say about it so far, but we'll take your calls at 1-800-357-0910 on that. And I want to share another topic here in just a moment that we kind of started yesterday. And by the way, I wrote a blog on it about authenticity yesterday. If you go to newsradio910.com, I just ran over to my office right after the show and wrote a paragraph or so about authenticity. Okay, it's something I talk about I probably use the word way too often, but I think it's one that we need to use. We need to remind ourselves about what it is, because authenticity is real, it's honest, it's true, it's who you really are, and I think it's something that's important. So we're going to talk about that this half hour as well. Chip wrote in to me here on Facebook and asked me, of course we had Governor Corbett on yesterday, and asked me when we're going to have Tom Wolf on, who is a Democrat for governor in Pennsylvania. He's running on the Democratic ticket. And so far, I've called him twice. And so far, we've not been able to get him on yet. I hope we will be able to get him on soon. The door is always open. I'd love to have him on. So if any of his people are out there, please let us know. We'd love to get Tom on. I think he'd be a great guest. And I'd love to hear, his thoughts about how to make Pennsylvania better. Because obviously, he's running against Tom Corbett. And both of them have a lot of ideas that they want to express out there. So my invitation is out there. I will try again. But we'll get them on when they accept my invitation. So, Chip, I hope that answers your question. Also had a response here this morning on this article about this woman and this guy cheating. Married couples cheat more than people who don't have kids. Parents cheat more than parents who don't, than couples that don't have kids. I'll spit this out. And this was from Marie. And she said, just sounds like she's trying to justify a wrong or a way to rationalize why she broke her vows. And I guess that's one of the big questions that hit me out of the article. Do vows still mean anything? Do contracts still mean anything in our country, or do you see them fading off the map? I mean, to a lot of people, you're saying, Gary, you're talking to me. I'm taking my vows. I've stayed with them. But I'm talking about promises and vows and contracts. Do they mean anything yet today? And if they don't, are we trying to rationalize a new type of honesty? I mean, has gray become the new honesty in our country? From what you're seeing, 1-800-357-0910. Yesterday, I read this article by Josh Koshauer, which I put out on the Twitter yesterday. And the secret and the title of it just got me. His blog is called Against the Grain. And he writes this title, and it just jumped out at me. The secret weapon to win over voters, authenticity. He said it's becoming harder for red state Democrats to say what they really think on hot-button issues. But he doesn't just talk about Democrats in here. He talks about Republicans as well. And so I've got a question for you in this half hour, and you feel free to call 1-800-357-0910 about this or about the last topic we were talking about. Let me ask you this. If authenticity and realness and truthfulness and honesty, which all kind of come together into authenticity from where I'm sitting, if that's not the number one thing on the list for us as people and for those who elect to represent us, then what is? Then what is? I'd be very interested in your answers. 1-800-357-0910. When you go to vote, if authenticity, if you're not positive that the person you're voting for, and I don't care if they're Republicans, Democrats, Independents, whatever they are, if you don't think they are honest, if you don't think they're authentic, And if you don't think authenticity is the number one thing you should be using when you go in to pull that lever or you push that button on the computer or whatever it might be to fill out their name, then why are you voting for them? If you deal with someone you don't think is authentic, why are you dealing with them? What then is the top quality that we look for in people if authenticity is not it? Fill up the lines. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I really would. Why do you think we're electing people today? I'm not just talking about the president or anything. I'm talking about anybody in this country today who's not what they say they are. Why are we doing that? What if apparently authenticity is not the number one thing, so there must be some other quality out there, right? And I don't care if you're voting for the person for borough council or for the mayor of your town, whatever it might be. If authenticity is not the number one reason that we elect them, then what is? What is? And if you're not authentic, what are you? By elimination, you're something else. Two lines open, 1-800-357-0910. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this morning. Give them to me. Because we're electing people, a lot of people in this country. We don't trust Congress. We see him down around 11%. We don't trust the president. He's down around 39, 40% right now. We don't trust a lot of the people in Harrisburg. They're not real high. So if we don't trust them, and yet we're still voting those people into office, authenticity must not be anywhere part of our thinking, right? Am I too deep? Grab the lines, 1-800-357-0910. Let's go to Bill. Bill, you're on the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for taking my call. Two things. You're talking authenticity. I don't have the luxury of venting the candidates to the extent that I'd love to. I have to rely on the party, which is a shame. But, you're today, with a dichotomy with the line so strongly with drawn between fiscal responsibility and spending to bankrupt the future, I have to go with the more conservative approach and hope that the guy is as honest as he says that he is.
Well, you're trusting that your party is also authentic in how they're choosing those people too, and that's another concern that kind of gets thrown in there. You have a middleman that you're kind of trusting a little bit there to help you, right?
That's exactly right, and I just hope they are. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was what you were talking about earlier, and what I think and has been for the last two generations is the school system. The school system is I'm okay, you're okay. That we live today to satisfy ourselves. And I'm telling you, my personal experience in 68 years, I'm the happiest person when I'm helping others or serving others. And when I'm not the number one guy on the calendar, I work hard to get a living. Sure, I am competitive to get ahead. But as God is my judge, as long as I can help the other guy along as well, I'm so much better off for the circumstance.
Bill, I appreciate
Gary,
Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate your honesty and how you expressed that today. And that's a good thought. And maybe what we're seeing right now, and that was one of the things that I wrote down there, have we become so narcissistic and so superficial and so me-oriented in society that we can no longer see beyond our nose sometimes in terms of, you look at marriage. And maybe that's one of the reasons that some people say, well, marriage is fading out. Marriage is old-fashioned. The idea of staying together forever is just kind of archaic, right? Is it? 1-800-357-0910. Also, what about authenticity? Ed from York wants to talk about both those. And Ed, you're on the Gary Sutton Show. You got 3 lines open. Grab them right now. 1-800-357-0910. Good morning, Ed. Your turn to make the call. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you.
Yeah, Gary, your last caller pretty much hit it on the head. We are creating a society where the only goal in life is to further yourself. It's propagated by all the economists today who teach that the only responsibility that any company has is to make profits for its CEOs and its shareholders and screw the workers. We have contracts that are being thrown out all over the place. People work their entire life and then get kicked out of the business 2 years before they qualify for the retirement. We have heroes, supposedly, like Scott Walker, who come in and nullify contracts all over the state, and somehow that's ruled constitutional. We have people all over this state right now who want to nullify the contract known as pension, and they want to call it pension reform. It's called breaking the contract that you have with the public workers. And we want to pretend that all this is okay. It's not. We're supposed to have a civilized society where your words still mean something. We had Paul Ryan, for example, who's supposed to be a good Christian, handing out Ayn Rand books to all of his political workers. Mm-hmm. And her entire goal in life was, you're the only thing that matters. Rational self-interest / greed is what makes the world go around.
Right.
And when we teach that that's all you're responsible for is yourself, then of course you're going to have selfish people who think it's perfectly okay to cheat on their husband if it makes them feel better about themselves.
And so are we now reaping some of the fruits of that kind of thinking? Are we now seeing the products coming out of that, all, with semantics in the name of helping people and all that, but you're really just kind of helping yourself in the long run, and that it is a society of me as opposed to a society of helping each other?
Absolutely, that's what's going on. And unfortunately, the blame is being, foisted on, in too many cases, quote unquote liberal ideas, and yet these ideas that are leading to rational self-interest, leading to the only thing that matters is you and your profit margin. The only thing that matters, forget contracts, forget the fact that people signed on to a career because they were going and were willing to give up pay in order to get a pension. Forget all that.
Right.
All that matters is me.
See, I'm one who was in that boat, but I also think that when there comes a time when you are in public pensions, for example, and you can't pay it anymore as a society, that somewhere when you start new people into the business, you have to say, okay, this system is not working for us right now. Let's put a system in where it's still going to benefit you in the long run, but right at the very beginning of your career, not somewhere down the line where you've already signed on to the promise. I don't think you would have a problem with that, would you?
It depends how it's done. No, philosophically, no.
Right.
That's how it's done.
I mean, to me, there's at least a fairness there to that says, okay, you're entering the job force now, but here's the deal. Okay, this is what you have now. If you still choose to go in, fine. If you don't choose to go in, fine. But you know what the score is starting out.
Of course, when it becomes a lot harder to sell that, when you see a governor, for example, who refuses to put taxes on Marcellus shale oil that every other state is charging, and that money could all go toward filling in the holes in these things.
But here's a question I have for you, and I think it's an interesting point that you raise, because I know that the what's the tax called? It's called severance tax, right?
Yeah.
Here's the problem. It's not like people don't already pay taxes, and I guess what I'm looking for is I'm looking for people who have new ideas that don't always say raise taxes on the people of the state or the people of the country. I'd like to see somebody come along and has some ideas that says, you know what? What if we live within our means? What if we are a little bit more responsible with the money that's already being given there? What if we cut back on some of the frills? What if we tell you exactly where it's going to go? It's interesting that you point that out, because who's supporting that kind of thing on the severance tax? You've got a lot of the public unions with the public pensions who are supporting that the whole way through. And so we have, one side that says, well, we're going to make the companies pay up so we have better education. But is just throwing money at education going to make it better? Or is making sure that maybe some of our standards and things like that going to make it better? I don't know the answer exactly, but I'm at least willing to raise the question with you.
And we do have to watch our money, but when every decision that's made is geared specifically toward increasing corporate profit margins, and you know as well as I do that is where all the new money in the economy has gone for the last 15, 20, 30 years. All the new money in the economy goes directly to corporations. None of it's trickling down to the workers. None of it's making it down there. Everything is going to CEOs and shareholders. And those people are important. They deserve to take their profits. But they also have a responsibility. And when we were a Christian nation, and when unions did have some power, it was taken seriously that you also have to take care of your workers. And if your company's doing well, your workers should be doing well. That's no longer the case. Guys like Mitt Romney, who come sliding in, take over a company, take every ounce of profit they can possibly get out of there, fire every worker they can, cut every benefit they can to increase profit margins, then say bye-bye, are seen as heroes by some people.
And yet we also see, and I'm not going to say it happens in every company because I think that's too sweeping a generalization. But I would say this. We also see a government that wants to regulate us into oblivion. Okay, so people are going to have to pay that at other companies. We also see situations where we have Obamacare that is turning our nation into a part-time nation. So the types of jobs that we have coming out there, people are saying, well, listen, I can't support that. I can't support that in my company, even though they're telling me I'm supposed to. That's the reality. You still have to deal with a profit margin, so that's part of the whole deal, too. So how do you do that? And there are a lot of good people around in small businesses who still want to maintain their people, but they're being forced to go to where they keep them part-time because of all the various things that are being thrown at them. So I don't know. You raised some very good questions, Ed. I hope we can do some more with this on another day right now. I have to go to a hard break, but thank you so much. When we come back, Nate in Shrewsbury is going to be next up on pensions here on the Gary Sutton Show. And Ed, thank you again so much for your call on News Radio 910 WSBA. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show. Great call from Ed a moment ago. Raised a lot of good points. And there's no question that crony capitalism is taking place on all sides of the coin, left and right in this country today. But I think it's a very complex issue that we're looking at. And by the way, I'm sitting here watching Fox right now. John Fleming's in his hearing. He's actually talking at the moment. He was going to be on the show with us at 10:05 this morning. Was unable to do so. So we'll get him on at another time. But I'm not sure what the hearing is about here. I'm trying to see, and I normally have the little scan that goes across the bottom. Let's get back to the phone lines. Got Nate in Shrewsbury. Nate, you're next up on the Gary Sutton Show about pensions. Good morning, Nate. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. Doing well. How are you?
Doing very well. Great to have you on the show. Go ahead.
I should use the Dave Ramsey thing better than I deserve. Anyway, the comment that I had is about the pension reform. We need pension reform. We're going to go broke if we don't get pension reform soon. Our Commonwealth's credit rating has deteriorated very recently. I think it was last week they mentioned something about that as a result of our obligations under the pension thing. We can't undo what we've already committed to the employees, but we can certainly change it.
Yes.
I'm now retired. The company that I worked for, the longest period of time, I left in 2006. They had a reduction in force, and a whole bunch of us got put out, and I was one of them. Fortunately, they chose the people to send out, first-line managers did, who they could give something to. And I left with the pension plan that they had in place. But you know what happened right after that?
Go ahead.
They changed the pension plan.
Right.
And any new hires that come in after that time, back 2006, are not covered under that pension plan. They've gone to a 401k style thing that's quite a bit more affordable. And the reason they had to do that is that the investment model that they were following simply didn't work for the old pension plan. As it turns out, that old pension plan is stabilized and it's still making money.
Right.
But if they continue to put people into it, it wouldn't work. And that's what's happening to us here in the Commonwealth. And as you pointed out a little bit earlier, I heard you make that comment, so I have to say that I agree with you there. But the folks are here in the Commonwealth, the state employees are really struggling with this thing, even to the extent of putting things into bills like the Senate radar bill right now, for instance, to allow local police departments to use radar. They put a thing in there, a part of that bill that says we have to retain the pension plan if a police department's going to use radar. Needless to say, that shouldn't be allowed to stand, and I wrote that up pretty carefully to Senator Wagner.
Right.
But you see stuff like that going on, and I realize the desperate feel that these folks have, but I think we still need to come to a halt at some point or another here and change the plan so that new hires and going into the future, we get to do something that we can.
When we look around the country, and thank you for your call, Nate, when we look around the country at what private pension plans have, or private companies have done with their pension plans, many of them have gone to the 401k style or some other way. I think we had something with our previous employer here called an ESOP plan, where there were savings for employees. You actually had part of the company, and when that company sold to another one, we actually reaped the benefits. I came in right after the pension was canceled, and they went to this ESOP plan. And so I didn't have a pension here. I had, I chose to get into a 401k plan, and I also, obviously by being employed here, was into this ESOP plan, which was really good to us at the end, and that was something that was based on the amount of money that they made and what they could pay out. And so the point is, if you try to have a defined benefit plan with public pensions, it's just not working anymore, because you don't have the money to pay it off. And every city that you see that has public pensions they have to pay off to police and to firemen, the people that we really value who are doing great jobs in our communities, at some point in time, the well dries up. Just like for any company, the well would have dried up if they'd have continued going with the pension plans the way they were. And because they had finite resources. Well, there are finite resources eventually for the public too, where they're going to say, we can't pay that anymore. And so then what do? Do you cancel the contracts with the people you've already made contracts with? I don't think so. But you have to have the courage, it seems to me, to step in and say, okay, we've got to set up a new plan. So just like when I came in here and I didn't get the pension, but I got something else, you do the same thing to new hires that are coming into the public domain to work. And the public pensions are going to be treated in a different way. They're going to maybe a 401k type, maybe a hybrid that's being proposed right now, whatever it might be. I don't know what the best way is, but it's got to be something else. When we come back, we'll talk to a man who makes common sense every time he joins us on our show. He's Dr. Walter E. Williams. He's a professor of economics at George Mason University. He's an author, a commentator, a columnist, and sometimes sit-in host for Rush Limbaugh. And we'll get his commentary on what's happening in the country today and how he sees things here on the Gary Sutton Show. On News Radio 910 WSBA, it's 11 o'clock.